Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Boxing Elbows. Today, I'm ranking the top 10 power forwards in the NBA. I did point guard, I did shooting guard, and I did small forward. Now I'm doing power forward, and then in 2 episodes, I will be doing centers. And I'm actually interested to see what the center list is going to look like once I complete it. Because I already know, I have a vision for like the top 4 or 5 centers, but then after that, it kind of gets a little clunky. So we'll see, and then we're gonna get some fan questions. Some of these fan questions you guys asked are amazing. If you want to send in your fan question, make sure to follow my Instagram, Boxes and Elbows Pod, or you can follow Ty.Allen81. Either one, I will be posting questions on my stories, and you guys get a chance to submit your questions. And some of these questions, I I really like, and I chose them for a reason, obviously. But yeah, these are some really good questions. So keep it up. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it because it has to be a quick episode. I'm not outside because it takes too long to set up outside with the laptop, disassembling the mic, disassembling the webcam, and then setting it all up outside and then finding the outlet to where I can bring an extension cord so that my laptop doesn't die like the last time. And yeah, no, I just didn't want to deal with all that. I'm going to a concert later, have to get ready, and yeah, so we're just gonna jump right into the list. So at number 10 is where I have Larry Markkinen. He had a really good season before the Jazz decided to sit him down, and it's unfortunate that they did because in the sample size of like 40 to 50 games that he did play, he was actually really good. He averaged nearly 27 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. The 2 assists is like you're not really expecting Laurie Markkinen to really, you know, make other guys around him better like that. But 2 assists is pretty alarming. I feel like he could average like 4 or 5 assists just from the gravity of his like shots alone that he could just like drive and kick, and that people would close out to him on the 3 point line. But teams really did value that from him, his off the ball ability to catch and shoot, to maybe dribble the ball off the bounce like a couple times. He could do that during the game. I know teams like the Pistons, the Warriors wanted Laurie Markkinen, but Draymond Green said to veto that trade because I think he was gonna be a part of it, or he said Brandon Podziemski should not be a part of it. Either way, Draymond had too much of a say in that trade, and they ended up with Porzingis, which Porzingis or Markkinen. I think I'd rather have Markkinen just because Markkinen actually plays, and offensively, Markkinen's ceiling with the Warriors would be better than Porzingis, especially in the system. Is Markkinen a better shooter than Porzingis? Probably. Is Porzingis better defensively? Yeah, but like Porzingis never stays on the floor. That's the thing. And I feel like with Markkinen, you just get an automatic like 60 games out of the season because he rarely gets like hurt for more than like 20 games at a time. And the games that he did sit out with the Jazz, it's because they intentionally sat him out. But yeah, no, Markkinen's definitely at number 10. He's not going to average 27 next year just because they have more weapons. They have Darren Peterson. They have Jaren Jackson Jr. now. Ace Bailey took a step second half of the season. So they have a really well-rounded roster, which means that Markkinen could potentially even like go higher based on his impact on winning. He hasn't been to the playoffs. He's like the longest tenured player to not be in a playoff game other than like Miles Bridges. And it's kind of sad because I want to see Markkinen in the playoffs. It was sad when Levine made it so long without being in the playoffs, and then he did. So hopefully Markkinen gets to be at least in the play-in tournament this year. I think the Jazz have the talent to be in the play-in tournament, maybe like a ninth seed out west. And it really depends on what Keontae George we're gonna get. Are we gonna get last year Keontae George, which would be amazing because him and Markkinen had games where they both had like 35, like consistently too. So that duo is going to be really good. And then you have Jaren Jackson Jr. As the back line defense. Um, and yeah, Marketing definitely deserves to be number 10. Number 9 is where I have Aaron Gordon. Um, Aaron Gordon is one of those, like, his stats will never really jump out of the page, but like him next to Jokic and his impact both offensively and defensively is what makes the Nuggets such a dangerous team because on me you might not be able to scout the Jamal Murray Jokic pick and roll because they're just that deadly and that they can basically get it off anytime they want. But then when you have Aaron Gordon either picking and popping or rolling to the rim for a lob or even shooting threes, he's a 40% 3-point shooter now apparently. Um, Rich, the fact that he added that to his game makes him that much better of a player because we already knew that he was a really good slasher, cutter, and a player off Jokic. But now when he picks and pops for three, it's basically cash. And you see the games where he doesn't play, especially in playoffs and in crucial games, the Nuggets just aren't nearly the same team. Like it's unfortunate because I think they should have just kept Porter, um, and Gordon healthy. Because I think they would have had another maybe conference finals run in them. But now it just kind of feels like if they make the conference finals, it'll probably be ugly, and it'll probably be because one of these like juggernauts, Spurs or OKC, is hurt, and or Aaron Gordon hasn't been healthy in the playoffs in like 2 years now, maybe even three. So hopefully they can get him back healthy because literally the first game of this, I remember opening night last year against the Warriors, he dropped 50, and it was like a 50 ball that came out of nowhere. He had like 9 or 10 threes. He was just dunking all over the place. The Warriors had no answer for him. Draymond Green couldn't do anything with him. And you're not asking Aaron Gordon to average 25 next year, but if he can keep around his average of like 16, and surprisingly, he only averaged 6 rebounds last year, which he's a rebounding machine. So kind of interesting that he didn't average more than like 7 or 8 rebounds, but I guess because Jokic averages like 13 rebounds a game, that it's like, maybe rebounding is not needed as much from a guy like Aaron Gordon. But 16 points per game for Aaron Gordon, really good. He rejuvenated his career after the Magic, where they were asking him to be a player that he maybe wasn't, you know, supposed to be. And so I feel like this is exactly what he's supposed to be on the Nuggets, and hopefully he can get a healthy year and healthy playoff run because he makes that much of a difference. Like if they had Aaron Gordon that whole series against Minnesota, they get out of that series. I don't care what anybody says. They're the way that the Timberwolves just walked down to the paint every time they saw Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown on the perimeter, and no backline defense whatsoever. Like literally Spencer Jones was starting. Like he's not the stopper, especially in the paint, that Aaron Gordon is. Now Aaron Gordon's not this great shot blocker, maybe not even like a top tier rim like deterrent defender, but that's still someone with size. He's still a good help defender, and it's just another person for the Wolves to think about when they go to the paint, and they had literally no one. So yeah, hopefully healthy season, healthy playoff run for Aaron Gordon, and he can stay in the top 10. Number 8, this might be a little controversial because I feel like maybe he should be higher. But I have Jalen Johnson in number 8. That playoff series against the Knicks was just a little rough for him, and we you had visions of him having issues creating in the half court pretty much his entire career so far, and it didn't help in the playoffs when the game slows down and your best player can't really create in the half court, and you relied on 34-year-old CJ McCollum to really close the deal for you. And the Hawks really didn't have anyone who could create in the half court other than CJ. I mean, Kaminga kind of, but he was still more slashing and cutting than anything. And Nikhil just had a really bad playoff series as well, which I'm surprised they really pushed that to 6 games because nobody played well except for CJ. Nikhil didn't play well. Jalen Johnson didn't play well. Onyeka Kongo didn't play well. Dyson Daniels, okay, but like you're not asking him to score a lot. And so the potential of Jalen Johnson could be a lot higher if he actually knew how to create in half court and developed a consistent 3 point shot. But unfortunately, those things didn't happen, and so he is at number 8. And he is one of those guys who leads the Hawks in points, rebounds, and assists. He's going to average triple doubles, or not average triple doubles, but he's going to have quite a lot of triple doubles in his career just off of that alone. He can create for others in the half court, but he just can't create for himself. And the Knicks really just knew that coming in, and so they really basically just kind of left him alone the entire series. Like they didn't really respect his jumper. When he was driving to the rim, that was when Jalen Johnson was at his effective, like most effectiveness, especially in those close games. I think game 2 and game 3, you saw Jalen Johnson down the stretch of the game just put his head down and drive to the rim. And whether it came with a basket or a foul, it was just wreaking havoc for the Knicks. And so he can do that. He can drive to the rim. Um, and yeah, he is one of those guys. He averaged 22 last year, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, which is really, really good for a power forward. That's like borderline Jokic numbers as far as like the rebounds and assists. But yeah, he's just a lot lower because I think like next year he's gonna have a lot more responsibility than he did this year because the Hawks are actually gonna have a little bit of expectations now based off the second half of that season and last year, and we're gonna see if that second half was who the real Hawks are, or if that was just a little run and everybody got hot at the right time. And I said this last episode when I was ranking the not last episode, but like the last ranking episode where I ranked the top 10 small forwards. And I said playoff runs and, you know, crunch time in games can really help boost a player on these rankings or hurt a player on these rankings. And in Jalen Johnson's case, it hurt him. And for number 7, Banchero kind of boosted him because when it comes playoff time, he just raises to another level. Like regular season last year, he was not that good. He still averaged 22 last year, but we're accustomed to seeing him average 24, 25, and the 22 didn't come on really good efficiency. And he just didn't look like the Paolo that we saw previous years where he could potentially, not take over the league or be the face of the league, but, be in that conversation. And the playoffs, he really rose to another level. It's unfortunate that they didn't make it out the first round because Paolo was just that special. And he did have a game where him and Cade both went for 45. And unfortunately, the Magic didn't have enough offense around him. Bane was consistent all year. Playoff wise, it was questionable. Suggs was just really bad when it came playoff time. And then Franz was good until he got hurt again. So Banchero was really just the best player the entire series against the Pistons. And that 45-point game was good. And then the game 6, they blew that game. I'm sure he had a decent game until probably the end because the Magic missed like 22 or 23 shots in a row or something like that. So he is to blame for that. And he also just didn't like Jamal Mosley as a coach. They got into their feuds. He didn't like the offensive capabilities that the team was running out there, which is why their offense was shit. And it probably still won't be good because they still don't have spacing. They haven't addressed that issue at all. But new voice in the locker room, new coach. Paulo's rejuvenated. He's coming into the season healthy. He's going to play 50 games next year. Him and Franz better play 55 games or more. And Paulo could really be top five in this list if he just like stays consistent, puts his head down, actually develops a consistent 3 point shot. I mean, I give credit where credit is due. When the Magic do need a clutch three, Paulo usually hits. Like most of his game winners actually are threes, and his clutch shots are threes in the playoffs. We saw this again last year when that three bounced all the way up, like RJ Barrett's shot against the Cavs, where it just bounced all the way up and then went straight down in, and that was a clutch three. He had a bunch of clutch threes in that 45 point uh, performance against the Pistons in Game 5. Against the Cavs 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he hit a bunch of just clutch threes to keep the Magic in that series and push it to 7 games. And so, unironically, his most clutch shots are threes, but he still isn't a great 3 point shooter. And teams are just going to pack the paint and load up on him. And his shot selection just looked awful during the regular season. But postseason time, he really steps up. He becomes the player that we want to see during the regular season. And so that alone boosts him above Jalen Johnson for now. Those two I feel like could flip flop. Like either they could both just stay where they are, they could both jump up on this list and swap, they could both fall on this list and swap. They could just swap these rankings right now. Jalen Johnson could just come out next year and have an MVP type season. So there's that. Number six, arguably the most consistent player on this list from game to game, playoff to playoff, team to team. Siakam is number six. Now, for some people think probably should be higher, but the top five on this list are just better than Siakam, point blank, period. But Siakam has been the most consistent player on the Pacers since he got there. He's been, ever since he left the Raptors, or ever since he won the championship with the Raptors, he's going to average 20 points per game. He's never going to really have a bad, like, he'll have bad games, but, like, his bad games aren't, like, as bad as some other players. And I keep seeing him on lists as most underrated player in the league. And yeah, because last year he averaged 24, 7, and 4. And next to Halliburton, he's like the perfect second option because he can do a little bit of everything. When the Pacers need pace, he can play with pace if they need him to create in the half court because nobody else in the Pacers can really create in the half court. He can do that. If you need him to shoot threes and make threes, he'll do that. If you need him to be a Eastern Conference Finals MVP, he'll do that. And he should have had 2 rings because the Pacers should have won that series against the Thunder. And everyone's talking about the game 7 um, against the Pacers or against the Thunder, and it's like, yeah, if Tyrese didn't get hurt, but people don't remember that the Pacers were actually up 2-1 in that series. Like they could have really gone up 3-1 and put a chokehold on the Thunder, and Shea just went nuclear in the clutch. So the Pacers had more than one opportunity to really win the series, and I feel like Game 7 is overhyped, when in reality the Pacers were up 2-1 in that series, and we're at home, by the way. They went up 2-1 at home. Could have won Game 3. It was still a close game. Could have went up 3-1 and really put the Thunder in a bad position. At the very least, could have came back to Indiana up 3-2 and closed it out there. So yeah, it went to Game 7 and Tyrese got hurt, but like the Pacers still had their chance to win before that. And Siakam is one of those players also, when it comes to playoff time, just rises to a different level. Against the Knicks, he was just absolutely dominant. Nobody could stop him. Even OG, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, could not do anything with Siakam, and they were teammates. So Siakam deserves to be number 6. Number 5, he kind of like fell below this. Like he dropped in the rankings for this list. Number 5 is Anthony Davis. Now he has played center the past 2, 3, 4 years, ever since the 2021 season for the Lakers, when they had JaVale and Dwight and whatnot. AD has played the center, so he hasn't been on the power forwards list. But this year he will be on the power forwards list, and I'm counting it as a power forward because he's always wanted to play power forward. And he dropped because he hasn't been healthy the past like 2 years. 3 years ago, I think, is when he played 76 games, which was one of his best seasons in a long time. But the last year, he just didn't play at all. And then the year before that, he was also injured. And the Mavs basically sat him down. And so hopefully we get a healthy Anthony Davis season. We already know the talent that Anthony Davis is. He deserves to be up here with the top two, respectively. But injuries have just caused him to just not play games. And so when you don't play games, players that have better seasons than you are going to jump you on this list. And yeah, also AD just didn't have a good season even when he did play. He averaged 20, 11, and 3, which for Anthony Davis, 20 points per game is kind of not good. Like Anthony Davis, you should pencil in 24, 25 points per game. And I don't think he's going to average 26, 27 like the Pelicans days, especially on this Wizards team when you have Trae Young, AJ, the number one pick. You have Sar, Keyshawn George. Like you still have a lot of weapons on this team, and so you're not asking AD to be Pelicans AD, but you're kind of asking him to be Lakers AD, who actually held down the defense and still was good for 23 to 25 points per game when needed. And yeah, just the injuries alone just hurt Anthony Davis in his case. And it's unfortunate because I mean this is no secret. Number one is Giannis, but like there was a point in time where Giannis and AD were going band for band as far as top 10 power forward or top two power forward in the league, top like big men in the league. And now it's just like Giannis is just catapulted ahead of him significantly. And maybe this year, if Anthony Davis plays more than 70 games, he'll definitely be higher than number 5 for sure. Because the defense alone is better than a lot of these players. Number 4 is Chet Holmgren. I really didn't want to put him on this list at all. Realistically, he's one of those players. I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, but like he's one of those players where you watch him and you just want to punch him in the face. And it's not I don't know how to explain it because like every time I watch Chet, I get frustrated. He seems to just like his talent seems to be like I literally just don't know how to explain it. I wish I could. And the finals, the Western Conference Finals against the Spurs just really did it in for me as far as I'm jumping off the Chet wagon. Really scared of Wemby. That narrative is never gonna go away, and it got amplified, especially in Game 7 when Chet only took 4 shots. And it's not like Chet was guarded by Wemby either. He just every time he just saw Wemby even near him, he passed it up. He didn't shoot, and he was just scared of the moment when Shea needed him. If Chet, I think the Thunder only lost by like 11 points or whatever, or something like that, or 8 points. If Chet, if Chet scores 15 points, they win that game and they're in the finals and they probably win a championship. That's like the difference between them being a champion and them not. Is Chet literally just being scared of the moment, and the talent alone deserves for him. He deserves to be top 4. Um, and still had a really decent season last year. And his defense, he was top 2 in DPOY, so he's obviously really good defensively. And next to Shea, he was really good when J-Dub was out during the regular season. He really stepped up. He's never going to be a player that averages like 22 to 25 points per game because the Thunder are just that stacked, and Shea's already getting you 30, and J Dub's gonna get you like 20 to 22. And you're not even asking Chet to score 20. Like, you're literally asking to score his average, maybe even a little above that because they lost a little bit of depth. But you're not asking Chet to do something that he's never accustomed to doing. And I see all these Twitter, I'm sure, just absolutely destroyed him after that game 7. And I see all these, like the Thunder head coach backed him up, saying that, I think Sam Presti did too, saying that Chet, ever since Chet was on the Thunder, they've been a 1 seed. And yes, that may be true, but there are a lot of games where Chet just isn't Chet or just ducks smoke. And I was really hoping that during the regular season, that was the whole narrative. Chet against Wemby. Wemby just absolutely dominated every time they played. And I guess that was a big enough sample size to say that, hey, Chet is who he is. But I was kind of hoping that we all knew that the Spurs and the Thunder would meet in the Western Conference Finals. And I was hoping that, Chet would accept the challenge and be like, yeah, no, I'm going to actually step up my game and we're going to win this series because Wemby's great and all, but like, you know, I'm still here. I've been 1 seed my entire career in the NBA. We're the favorites. We deserve to be here. And the Spurs are just this little young team that's up on the rise. Just didn't happen. And it's kind of sad. And it made me not want to put Chet on this list, but he is number 4. If Anthony Davis plays more than 70 games, like I said, he'll be top 5. He'll jump Chet on this list, on my list. ESPN may have a different list, and it may be right, but he's not. Yeah, no. Um, Chet just really just frustrated me so much, like during that playoffs. Like generally, the more I think about it, the more I get frustrated. Anyway, number 3 is Scotty Barnes. Like I said, playoff runs boost you. Scotty Barnes had a really, 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 really good playoff series against the Cavs. Really just showed his progression as a player. This defense is actually insane. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was number 2 in DPOI next year behind Vic. Vic is always going to get it, unfortunately, if he plays more than 65 games. So Scotty Barnes may never get a DPOY in his career because of Vic. And I'm sure there's players who didn't get DPOYs because of Rudy Gobert. But defensively, Scotty Barnes is that guy. You talk about his versatility on defense. He can guard 1 through 5. He can play big. He can play small. He can run with CMB at the 5. He can run with him. They can run with him at the 5. Him and Kawhi is gonna be nasty. He plays the passing lanes. He's a great shot blocker. He's a great help defender. Anything you want defensively, Scotty Barnes gives you. And then offensively, we just see a jump every year. Next year, I think he's gonna average 20 a game. I think he averaged 18 last year, 7, 8, and 6. And he's also like Jalen Johnson, where he's gonna have a lot of games where he has triple doubles. He's gonna get guys involved. He makes guys around him better. And it just reminded me of like the RJ Barrett game winner in game 6. Like, Scotty Barnes literally drove that from half court and kicked it out to RJ Barrett, who was wide open. And Scotty Barnes could have said, hey, I'm going to get downhill. I'm going to try to draw a foul. I'm going to be the best player in this situation. We win or we lose by me. And he didn't do that. He said, hey, if I can get a good look for my teammate, if we can get the best possible shot available, whether it's me or somebody else, hey, I'm going to do that. He did that, and they ended up winning that game. And it's unfortunate that Brandon Ingram and Quickly were hurt. Quickly was hurt the whole series, but Brandon Ingram was hurt after game 4, I think, and or game 3. And if they had those two, the Cavs could have been a first-round exit, which is crazy to say because they made it all the way to the conference finals, which the Pistons and the Cavs just didn't deserve to be where they were. I'm sorry. Like, they had really bad playoff runs, and analytically, the Cavs should have won the championship. No, shut the fuck up, Kenny Atkinson. I don't know what the fuck he was yapping about when he said that. Like genuinely, I just didn't even understand him because the analytics will say that the Knicks were still the better team. They still played better, and yeah, I just was he like how much of a cope did he need? I just anyway. Scotty Barnes, number 3 on this list. Scotty Barnes could potentially stay number 3 on this list for a while because he's just that good. Number 2 and number 1 could be flip flopped, but since number 2 is coming off a major injury and number 1 is also kind of coming off not a major injury, but he hasn't been healthy in the last like 2 or 3 years. But he's not coming off a Achilles injury, and so number 2 is Jason Tatum. Tatum does play power forward, and he will play power forward again this year. Ever since like Jaylen Brown has been the small forward on the Celtics for a while now, and so Tatum is the power forward. You could go either way with these two. You could go Tatum 1, Giannis 2, Giannis 2, Tatum 1. But going to next season, I think it's fair to say Giannis is still number 1 at the power forward position. Tatum will come back next year, will be better. He still averaged 22 and 10 and 5 in the 25 games he played, which is incredible. The fact that he did that off a torn Achilles is just insane. Next year, he will be top 5 in MVP voting. I can book it. And you know why? Because they lost Jaylen Brown. They got Paul George back. But Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum is going to be the clear cut best player on the Celtics. Might be the second or third best player in the East next year. Will definitely average more than 25. If Tatum will probably average 27 to 30 points per game next year, book it. Um, and he's also like a lot of these power forwards are guys that can get triple doubles pretty easily. Tatum can get 10 assists because he's a great facilitator. He's good at making guys around him like Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. He's good at getting those guys open looks, especially when the teams are gapping up on Tatum. And we saw this in the finals. The Mavs tried to do that against Tatum, and it didn't work at all because Tatum still averaged 30 that series, and the Celtics still won. So at least if you're gonna if the Mavs if you're gonna do something like that, you try to eliminate one of those. You try to either say, hey, Tatum is not gonna average 30 and you may lose, or you can say, hey, Tatum can average 30 or whatever, but we're gonna win. Or vice versa. Like you try to make sure that either Tatum doesn't go off and you try to win, or you lose and Tatum doesn't go off. Like I just don't understand how you let Tatum go off and you lose at the same time when the strategy was clear that you were trying not to make him. That's kind of yapping about nothing at this point. Yeah, Giannis in the 40, 50 games that he played last year still averaged 28, 10, and 5. So he's always going to be top 2 in the power forwards list until he retires. And him next to Bam is going to be nasty defensively. First option Tatum is going to be something special to watch next year, especially since we know he has a chip on his shoulder. Didn't play in the last 2, 3 games of the playoff series um, against the Sixers. Or no, he didn't play in Game 7 against the Sixers, and they lost that game. And so he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to come into next season fully healthy, training camp fully ready to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics were in the second round of the playoffs next year against a team like the Raptors or the Sixers or the Knicks and push them to 6 games because of Tatum. Like, will I pick the other teams against the Celtics? Probably. Just because of the lack of overall talent on their team. And the fact that you went from Jaylen Brown to Paul George. So Yeah, no. So Giannis definitely deserves to be number one as of right now. Tatum will be two. I don't really see that flip flopping. Like you could have the argument for one over the other, but I just think Giannis is clear cut number one. Tatum is clear cut number two. Like the gap between Giannis and Tatum is probably not as big as the gap between Tatum and number three, Scotty Barnes. Like the gap between Tatum and Scotty Barnes is bigger than the gap between Giannis and Tatum, in my opinion. And yeah, that's those are the top 10 power forwards in the NBA. If you have any qualms with this list, if you want a player to be on this list that isn't on this list, replace somebody that I have on this list. If you have the order a little different, please let me know. Either you can comment it on the Spotify podcast. Like there's a section where you can comment on podcasts in Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube or any short, I guess, because I'm doing this for YouTube Shorts as well. Anywhere you can comment on this, basically just comment, say something, whether you like this list, you don't like this list, if you have the order different, whatever. Please just comment. I want to know your guys' opinions. Because at the end of the day, I am doing this list, but I don't want it to be a list that I make and then it just never gets like looked at or corrected. Especially since I want to eventually get a job, not making lists, of course, but like I want to work for ESPN. I want to work for big sports companies. And so to get feedback on my takes would be very, very helpful for that standpoint alone. But yeah, I'm just going to go through the top 10 quickly. Number 10, Markkinen. Number 9, Aaron Gordon. Number 8, Jalen Johnson. Number 7, Paolo Banchero. Number 6, Pascal Siakam. Number 5, Anthony Davis. Number 4, Chet Holmgren. Number 3, Scotty Barnes. Number 2, Jason Tatum. Number 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Out of all these players on this list, only 2 of these players are on different teams. Number Giannis is on a different team and Anthony Davis on a different team. Every one of these players is still on their team, and I don't anticipate any of these players getting traded anytime soon, unless the Nuggets decide to trade Aaron Gordon, which is very possible, or because the Magic, I don't think are going to trade Banchero. I think if the Magic were to trade somebody on their team, they'd probably trade Franz before they trade Banchero, because I think you can get not more value for Franz, but you'd rather have a foundation of Banchero and then whatever pieces you get back from Franz would still be sufficient. Because I feel like if you trade Banchero, you're either like I feel like if you're trading Franz, you're still trying to be competitive. Where if you trade Banchero, you might try to be going into a more of a not a rebuild but a retool. So yeah, all these players are going to be on their team next year, and they're all going to have really good seasons. I would imagine. I don't see any player on this list that is going to fall off tremendously. So maybe this list next year will be the exact same. I have no idea. But we're going to get into some fan questions now because we are nearing the end of this episode. Like I said earlier, I have a concert to get to. I have to get ready. And that means no NBA trivia. I don't think I've done NBA trivia in a little bit now, but trust me, I have some quizzes cooked up for you guys, for myself. And we are going to be 82 and 0. I promise on God, I will actually like be 82 and 0. Like last time I got 74 and 8, which was bullshit because that fucking lineup was dominant across all boards. I think I had Shaq, I had LeBron, I had Oscar Robertson. Like there's just Allen Iverson. I had like there's no fucking way that team does not win 82 games in a row. I don't know what the frick that game. Like what are the metrics for that game? I have no idea. But I will beat 82 and 0. I can promise you that. Um, yeah. So fan questions. So someone asked on my I asked on my Instagram. Give me some questions you guys want to know. I'll basically answer any question as long as it's within reason. Um, like if you ask me what my address is, I'm not gonna give you my address. Like that's just a question that's not reasonable to answer. But I got a few questions. Also said that they can be NBA related or not NBA related, and I still did get quite a few NBA related questions because at the end of the day, this is a basketball podcast and people want to ask basketball questions and get my takes on them, which is fair enough. Like that's kind of the whole point of this show. But I did get a few good questions outside of that. So, someone asked, what is an NBA team that you wish had a different result? Now, this is a good question because there are a lot of teams that I wish had either made the playoffs or just won a series. And honorable mention for this, it's not my answer, but I do wish the Light the Beam Kings did win that series against the Warriors and did actually go farther than they did. Because Light the Beam Kings was special. De'Aaron Fox was really amazing. Mike Brown, still amazing coach. He's with the Knicks now and he won a championship. So he's been an amazing coach, even with the Warriors and the the Cavs when he coached LeBron. But that year was just super special. Just a different vibe to the Kings than their previous like existence essentially. And it was only short lived because the year after that they just sucked and they went right back to mediocrity and then they traded Fox and then they got rid of Mike Brown and now they're in a rebuild again when the Light the Beam team was like what 2 3 years ago, and not only did they make the playoffs, they were the number 3 seed. Like they were a top 3 seed in the Western Conference when the Warriors were in it. The Lakers were still good. Um, what was this the year? The Nuggets. I think the Nuggets were the number 1 seed this year, or were they? Yeah, no, they were. But the the fact that the Kings were a number 3 seed and nearly winning 50 games, which also that season literally just came out of nowhere. Like the previous year, I'm pretty sure they were just ass, and then they came back next year. I think they was that the year they hired Mike Brown. I think this was also Keegan Murray's rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. Um, he was really good. He set the rookie record for threes, which every year that record is being set over and over again. But just a really fun team. That was when Sabonis was decent, and it just sucks that Draymond Green fucking stomped on his ribs, which really. Oh, that was the same year of the punch. Yes, Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole. Y'all remember that? That was the same season. And just kind of sucked that they lost in the first round. And one of the more fun playoff teams that came out of nowhere that you were like, hopefully they can build on this. Hopefully next year, maybe they're not going to be a 3 seed because we all didn't project that. We projected that maybe they would still be top 6. Nah, they were in the play-in next year and they got bounced, and it just went downhill from there. But um, my throat. My answer for this question is the 2021 Suns. I was really rooting for them pretty much the entire playoff run once the Nets got bounced because Devin Booker is one of my favorite players in the league. Um, he's like top 3 or 4 of my favorite players in the league, and to see him suffer with the Suns for all those years, had a 70 point game, had ridiculous just years of mediocrity, and they just sucked, and everyone was calling him empty stats Booker because the Suns went nowhere, and then boom, all of a sudden you get Chris Paul, um, and you really put the team together, and they made the finals, and they were up 2-0 against the Bucks, and I was like, holy shit, Chris Paul's gonna get his first ring, Devin Booker's gonna get a ring. We're gonna have some interesting conversations about Devin Booker. This is when DeAndre Ayton was just dominating, like he was straight up just like a top 5 center in the league, and then that just went downhill from there. This was when Mikal Bridges was, Mikal Jail, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, um, and just this team was really well put together. And I just wish they had won the finals. I really wish they had beaten the Bucks. Giannis's career would have looked a little different. We would have had a lot of different conversations about Giannis because if Giannis hadn't won that championship, then he would have 0 championships, and we'd still be looking at Giannis to be like, "Yo, you're good, but where's the chip?" And I just really felt bad for Chris Paul, genuinely, like because he said he was addicted to the finals, and they never made it back to the finals, and that was just one of those teams that like I think everyone was probably rooting for the Suns, like whether you liked Chris Paul or not. You just wanted to see Devin Booker get a ring. You wanted to see uh, Mikal Bridges, who plays every single game of every year, hasn't missed a game of his entire life, essentially, even dating back to college and high school. And they just seemed like they did everything the right way. There was no real like drama. Nobody on the team you really hated, and it was like they were up 2-0 in the finals, and they all you had to do was just hold serve at home, and you win the series, and they couldn't even do that. And I was just really, really sad that Chris Paul ended his year going to the finals once and blowing a 2-0 lead and losing 4 games in a row. Just kind of sucked. And one of my favorite Suns teams, even to this day. And I feel like the year that they traded for Kevin Durant, I feel like they should have just stuck with it. Still should have had Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant on the same team. Because the year after that, they just traded Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. And I don't know why they did that. And then the Suns just went downhill from there. Went from the finals to barely even sniffing the play-in tournament. So I'm just really, really, really stunned that they lost that series, and I'm kind of sad. And I really wish they would have won that finals. Another question is what. Now, this question is a very interesting question. And at first, I didn't know how to answer this because there's like so many answers I could go with and so many players that I could just answer this and like, basically give a cop out answer. But someone asked, what is my player comp in the NBA? And so I'm not even close to being an NBA player. Probably not even close to being a college basketball player, if I'm going to be honest. I I fucking suck. But when I do play competitive games and runs and whatever you want to call those, when you gather a bunch of your friends, or maybe not even friends, but like just people on the basketball court and you play a game, my strength is obviously shooting. I can't. I did have a couple of times when I did try out for basketball or I did play a game where I'd drive to the basket and I'd hit tough shots, but that's just not my game. I can't do that on a regular basis. I'm a straight shooter, and I may not be the best defender, but I compete on the defensive end. I may get stops here and there. If someone's going to hit a shot over me, it's going to be contested, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to be like, hey, maybe there was a foul, maybe not. And so, with all those keep in mind, I think my player comp in the NBA would be Max Strus. All those things I just listed about myself is exactly what Max Strus does. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's a good shooter. He may not be the best defender on the Cavs, but he competes on the defensive end. He gives players just, if you're gonna score Max Strus, it's gonna be a tough shot. And yeah, no, that's exactly what my player comp would be. And Max Strus is probably not even like a top 70 player in the league today. So I wouldn't give myself top 50 player comp. Like I just wouldn't say, hey, my game is Devin Booker because Devin Booker's a good shooter and he competes on the defensive end. Like no, I'm not even, don't even mention me in the same breath as Devin Booker. But Max Strus seemed a little fair as far as player comp goes. And actually, I really like this question because a lot of people think that you're so far off from NBA players because it's their job to literally score the basketball and put the basketball in the hoop and maybe even do other things like defend, set screens or whatever. And people think they're so far off from doing that at a competitive level. But if you really think about it, your player comp could be anybody in the league. Like whatever your game is what your player comp is, and like it's exciting to see what players like you're either compared to or you can like see yourself like in their body and doing the kind of the exact same things that they do. And so it was really interesting to figure out what player I would be compared to or what's fair because I'm like I said, I'm not going to give myself a super OP like player because that's just not who I am as a basketball player. I'm not that good and I'm not going to be selfish like that. And so I just wanted to give a reasonable answer. So Max Strus is a reasonable answer. Last question before I end the episode is what is a skill you have that would surprise people? Now, this may not surprise people because some people may know this about me. But I can cook. And what I mean by I can cook is not like I can make mac and cheese or I can make, pasta or whatever. I can actually, if you put a meal in front of me for the first time and put a recipe in front of me, I can add my own flair to it and I can actually make it taste good. Um, I don't think I have a signature dish because I feel like I can make a little bit of everything. Like if you put a pasta dish in front of me, I can make it. If you put a any like meat recipe like beef or steak or whatever, I can make. If you put a like potato recipe in front of me, I could probably do that. Like I feel like I can make anything you put in front of me, given the amount of time. I can add my own flair to it. And what I mean by add my own flair is I can mess with the servings a little bit. I can add different seasonings that maybe are not on there or ingredients like garlic or whatever, and just really make it my own dish. Um, and this all stems from me taking a home like a cooking class in high school, and this was when COVID was happening, so we were forced to basically cook in our own houses. And so normally I would have just cooked in school with the supplies that they had, but since we were remote, COVID was happening, we had to cook at home. And so I really dove into our pantry, our refrigerator, basically all of our food supply, and I made meals and I actually enjoyed doing it. And then a year or two later, I started working at Legoland. I was a cook. I was cooking different things from like briskets to preparing chicken to you know making burgers and fries in the fryers. But the most fun I had was when I food prepped, when I actually made and seasoned large batches of chicken, steak, brisket, and even like potato salad I did. And it was just really fun to do that and get paid to do that. And yeah, those 8 hours a day were really long, especially in a hot ass kitchen during the summer at Legoland. But I also did get to work different restaurants, different food stations. I got to work at a funnel cake stand for a couple of weeks, which was really fun. I got to work at a burger restaurant, other what was the other I can't remember what the other restaurant wasn't a burger restaurant. It was more of like a steak restaurant where like at Legoland you can like actually have like steak made for you or whatever. And I worked in all different environments with different people and it was just really fun. And I I don't cook as often at home, but when I do cook, I can make a good meal and I can, chef it up as people like to say. And people really value that as a man. I guess women value that. Even men value that. A guy who can cook. So maybe hit me up. I can cook you a meal. Maybe it's W Riz, L Riz. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna end the episode here. Um, like I said, if you have any more fan questions you want to ask, and you can make them as good as this, or you can make them whatever questions you want me to answer, as long as they're within reason, I will answer them. Hopefully, because I have a lot still more to get through, and Instagram, ty.allen81, or Box and Elbows Pod. Both of those I will be posting on my stories for questions. And yeah, we're just going to end the episode here. I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.